7:14. Now the discussion starts. Oh, Tommy Johnson's over here. He's over laughing.
How in the world?
So I laugh because I drove semi trucks and whatever. And when I first started driving, and the guy kind of broke me in. He was younger than me, but he'd been driving trucks, and he said, "I'm going to tell you right now, you're going to hate people in cars and pickups." And I said, "What?" He says, "You are literally going to hate them before it's over with." And he was absolutely right.
You drove tractor trailers. So I get to pick on you for a minute. Okay. Yeah. So I'm out on I-40. I'm in Tennessee. I'm doing the speed limit of 70 miles an hour. Mm-hmm. Okay. There's 4 trucks in the right-hand lane. The third truck pulls out to pass the other 2, but he doesn't have enough horsepower to get up the hill.
Oh, that's a joy. What a rolling roadblock.
Yeah, I got a truck in the left lane, 3 trucks in the right lane. Now I'm down to 45 miles an hour, and this guy's belching enough smoke to cloud the Mississippi River 100 miles behind me.
Yeah.
And for 30 miles, we try to get around these guys.
Yeah.
Which is, that's a truck driver who's never been taught really some etiquette there. Lee Iacocca had the best thing years ago, lead follower or get out of the way. And that's the thing you need to use when you're driving, especially if you're driving trucks. If you can't get around, then you got to get out of the way. Let the traffic go by. I don't care if you want to drive 45 miles an hour. Lead, follow, or get out of the way.
Yeah. I failed as a child. I failed to understand fully and appreciate the term left lane bandit that I would hear my father scream as we would go on family trips. But I'm going to tell you, I went to Memphis yesterday and came right back. And all across the whole state, northern part of the state of Arkansas, on the east side, was one left lane bandit after another, and it's not like I'm trying to speed or really fly. It's just and especially I've never understood that. You get to a passing lane, from here to Jonesboro till you get to Black Rock, you have several of those 3-lane passing areas, and some clown will invariably get in the left lane. Passing lane, get alongside a vehicle in the right lane, and they'll do the same speed all the way up the hill, and you can't get around them.
And I'm going to point it out, Fulton County is the worst.
I don't know.
I left about 11 o'clock Friday. Highway 62, 412, 63. 63 turns goes Pocahontas there at Bowden. I keep on going to Black Rock on 63, 412.
Yeah.
And you get either Mom and Pa Kettle taking the cows down. They can't go buy milk and bread and peanut butter without taking the cows in the trailer for some reason.
Well... Yeah.
And the truck is old enough to smoke, and most of the rings have long been
shot.
And, you're there 30, 40, 50 miles. You can't get around them.
I saw a bumper sticker on a car the other day, and it was really funny. I think I was on I-40, and it was a bumper sticker, and it was on the left side of this vehicle, and the bumper sticker said, "If I just passed you on the right, you're an idiot." So I thought that's pretty, reminds me of what I saw on Facebook. In some state, they're putting some highway signs now. The right lane and the passing lane. Right lane says, use this lane if you're not passing. Now this is for real. And then on the other one it says,
August.
Don't be in this lane unless you are passing. And if you're done passing, get over in this other lane.
Yeah.
So has the Are we that far gone as a country? Are we that stupid? I mean, has the nation been dumbed down to the point where we have to have arrows pointing which lane you should be in based on how you're driving? I mean,
I remember when the interstate system was new, and this lane's to drive in, this lane's to pass. And remember minimum speeds?
Yeah.
I've been on highways, minimum speed 45, maximum 75. You can go anywhere between 75 and 45 if you wanted to. Drive your comfortable speed. Right. Now it's just all,
And then you go across Black Rock River and see the passing lane on the bridge.
Yeah, I want to talk about that.
That makes about as much sense as, what,
Let's explain. Okay.
Is there are they using it as a safety zone or
can't,
what?
Because if you're coming from Portia, you're going uphill.
But it changes mid-bridge. It goes from one side to the other, so somebody else gets the passing.
I filmed it. I turned the camera on and filmed it coming home.
Yeah.
If you're leaving Black Rock, there's a turn lane where you can either turn left to go to Fort Davidson Park, and there's that come and go right there.
Yeah.
And they keep the turn lane across the bridge. As soon as you get off, the yellow lines come together. Of course, they've got all the construction. There's 2 more single-lane bridges there, dual-lane bridges that they're going to replace. It'll all be 5-lane eventually.
Yeah.
But why did they put a turn lane on the bridge? You're coming from Portia, And as you get on, the highway stripe widens, and it says slower traffic, keep right. So you've got 4 lanes going into Black Rock, or 2 lanes going into Black Rock.
Right.
That narrow down to 3, the turn lane, and the 2 lanes going back across the river. Yeah. Nevertheless, they have a turn lane with a no passing zone marked.
Yeah,
on a bridge.
A turn lane on a bridge. I mean, can we get the governor on the phone? I mean, you're good at that.
Let's see. Well, I think the 22nd.
Who's in charge of that? You know what? We need to find that out. We need to contact the Arkansas Highway.
How much did it cost?
Oh,
yeah,
gosh.
That's what you get into, because
I don't know.
Here we get into the national thing. In 2008, they passed was $850 billion for infrastructure. And, of course, they were supposed to be shovel-ready jobs. So you're kind of wondering what's gone on since then. And now you're hearing it on the liberal socialist end, especially from Bernie Sanders on the national campaign. We need to come up with millions and millions of dollars for infrastructure.
Come up with? That means...
Well, yeah, you know exactly what that... Yeah. But I'm like, okay, well, what happened to the $850 billion, which, of course, that was answered by Mr. Obama when he said, well, shovel-ready jobs weren't shovel-ready as we thought. So then
They're still building the shovels.
They're still building the shovels. So then you get to wondering, okay, who's deciding who the engineers are on this? When you put that much money out there, and from someone who saw that in 2008 when I was in Iraq, when I was pushing the contracts around, my job was to coordinate all the contracts for the civilians, contractors with this FLUR, KBR, and all that. And even the officers that sat there, the guidelines that we had to make sure the oversee on that were so intense in that it was... There was really an effort to try not to waste money. I will give it that. But even the officer said, this is just, the waste is there. You can't get around it. It's going to be, but there's got to be some common sense in this also.
I did. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just the common sense for some reason it always has been waste.
Right.
But the common sense effort, it seems to be getting less and less and less.
You know, we did some figuring the other day. It's about $10,000 a mile just to resurface an asphalt.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money.
All that oil, I guess.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then you figure that new bridge. Okay, first of all, the old bridge was one of the oldest. I think that was a WPA project, wasn't it? That bridge over...
It was old. I believe it was a WP project.
WPA project.
Because the old bridge is gone. I know that.
They took it out.
They took it away, yeah.
You know, when all this bridge rating came out about 10 years ago, that bridge was like the top 5 or top 10 of the most needed to replace bridges in the country.
Yeah, you could tell crossing it.
Yeah.
I mean, when you cross a bridge that has potholes, that's not so good. That's not a great feeling.
I felt a shake.
Yeah.
I mean, I really did.
It's,
if you're in a big truck or something, you go across it, you can feel it shake.
And when you met a big truck on that,
you start singing "Nearer, My God, to Thee."
I'm in a Volkswagen Jetta, and I'm meeting this massive semi, and I'm just thinking, "Oh Lord,
how's your emission
help me!" Oh, just fine. It's gas.
It's gas.
Yeah. No diesel here, buddy. No, I'll let somebody else do the diesel thing.
So here's what I want to point out about this highway. They take bids on the project, but who checked it out? Why are you putting a 5-lane bridge over a river? And one of the lanes is a turn lane. It don't make a lick of sense.
I don't know what possible answer there could be for that. I mean, other than, we were talking about society being dumbed down. I mean, surely engineers, the people that hired the people to paint the lanes on that bridge. I mean, in their thought process.
Yeah, like, what are we doing here?
In their processes, did they ever think, hey, why are we putting a turn lane on a bridge? I mean, there's just nowhere to turn.
No.
You better hope you don't turn there, or you're going in the drink. But
I doubt seriously that you could call even Little Rock to the Arkansas Highway and Transportation Department to try to get an answer, and you would get one. And then say, well, that would not be our department. We'll have to switch you to another department.
Engineering
you're right there. And and they may come up with some convoluted answer to it.
But here's the issue that, any candidate that's been here, I talk about highways. That's my pet peeve. Didn't we have a sales tax passed 2 or 4? Okay. We haven't seen a lot of improvement. Yeah, they're getting some good improvements over there at Porsche, and that's much needed.
Yeah.
But what did they do in Little Rock and Conway? They 6-laned I-40 between Conway and Little Rock. Well, it really helps the rest of the state.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But it's like when Governor Hutchinson was here and when Mike Ross was here. Both gentlemen were here separate times, but they were going on to Jonesboro after they finished in Mountain Home.
Yeah.
And to both of them, I said, I hope you get behind every slow driver between here and there. Well, why do you want that on us? I said, so you know what we go through.
Oh, every day when you travel that way.
You leave the governor's mansion.
Every day.
You're on 630, 430, 40, 30, or something.
Right.
You know, if you're in Fort Smith or Fayetteville, Springdale, you're on I-49.
I can tell you right now, when I was flatbedding, this was years ago, I picked up a load of steel in Blytheville to go to Tulsa. And you can go down 55 and catch 40
and go
across
faster.
And go across it. It's 70 miles further going that way and then catch the turnpike up, then go north after you go into Oklahoma to Tulsa. It's 70 miles further. You get to Tulsa, I think it was an hour and 10 minutes faster going that way than to just go straight across North Arkansas.
You go some of those routes, and if you get behind one of those log trucks, guess what?
Forget it.
You are stuck. And then the impatient people do pass on W. Ellen. It just happens. I mean, it gives me the same emotional feeling, being behind either a left lane bandit or a place where there's been no passing provided for 25 miles. I have the same emotional feeling then as I do at Walmart in the express lane with 20 items or less, and the person in front of me has 45 items. Mm-hmm. You know, it's that same kind of frustration. The person can count, but they're just not going to do it. They're going to make the rest of society, I always love it at Walmart when you've got the lady behind the counter that's about the same age as the lady checking out, and the lady checking out has bought clothes, and the checkout lady has to comment on how pretty every item is. I just want to, everybody can count. So,
hey, lady, look at this gallon motor oil. Ain't this pretty? You know,
I think we need one of those signs like with the lanes that we were talking about a while ago. If you have 21 or more items, don't use this checkout. If you have 20 or less, then you may use the express checkout lane.
Hey, I've got another for you for government waste. I needed a camera battery. Got a little Kodak Easy Share camera.
Yeah.
Okay, it takes a little square flat battery. Walmart didn't have it, and they said, well, you got to go back to manufacturer. So I go on eBay, type, found it, $6, no shipping. Cool. So I bought it. It's in Brooklyn, New York. I always like to see I like to trace these things. So I hit the tracking number. Brooklyn, New York, New York City. Departed New York City. 2 days, no action. Arrived San Juan, Puerto Rico.
Puerto Rico?
They sent my battery to Puerto Rico. It's on eBay. So I checked it when I got back from Nashville the other night, and now Puerto Rico sent it straight to Little Rock. And Little Rock sends it to Mountain Home.
Well, I've confirmed that here, our mail, if I mail, like at our local post office, I asked a postal employee who shall remain nameless, I said, when I heard that if I mail a letter to someone here in town, that it has to go plumb to Fayetteville before coming back here. And they told me that was correct. To the sorting center. So I can drop off a postage. I can mail a letter to the guy next door to me.
Yeah.
To my next door neighbor. Yeah, I can send my next door neighbor a get well card, drop it in the mail, and it goes to Fayetteville and comes back. And then eventually ends up
there. Wonder why they're $4 billion in debt.
I ordered a schematic for an amplifier. It's the wiring diagram. It was in Rogers, Arkansas. So I tracked it. Mm-hmm. It comes to Yellville, Arkansas.
Yeah.
Then to Little Rock.
Golly.
It made it within 21 miles of my house, and they sent it to Little Rock.
Yeah.
And Little Rock sends it back to Mountain Home.
I'm sure it has to do with routing systems and how could they get that detailed to know that it was 21 miles from you. I mean, I don't know. But it sure does seem counterintuitive, like a waste of resources and why would there used to be back in the old days, and this is going back to the old post office when there used to be a green light on the wall that let you know that all the mail was posted. Do you remember that? You could go in if the green light was on. You're like, hey, that was back when Hillary was our postmaster. So anyway, so you go in the post office, and why can't there be a local mail drop box like there was back then? There was out of town and in town, and all in town mail was sorted separately and was delivered. And I think they stamped it right at the post office and then delivered it, because some of them are literally going 5 P.O. boxes down from where you are. But literally, if your number is P.O. Box 200 and you send a letter to P.O. Box 201, approximately 5 centimeters away, it has to go to Fayetteville. I mean,
like I said, and then you want to know why they're $4 billion in debt.
I mean, I think my 10-year-old could figure that out.
Take a big lesson from FedEx. At least they kind of got that figured out.
Why wouldn't they post local mail local? I don't know.
It don't make any sense.
Just put it in a different box. I don't.
6 seconds to news time. Visiting with Tommy Johnson here along with Sam Seamans, having a lot of fun. Coming up, it's time for the news. We'll continue talking about something right after this. 7:35. Okay, Tommy brought up the fact that about a policeman asked to leave Olive Garden. I pulled it up here. It was in Kansas City, and let's take a look at this article right here. It was reported by one of the TV radio stations up there. The staff of Olive Garden in Kansas City asked a police officer to leave during his own birthday lunch on Sunday. According to KMBC, Officer Michael Hallsworth was waiting for his family to arrive at the restaurant dressed in full uniform.
In uniform.
Let me turn your mic on, that way you can hear better.
In uniform.
Yeah, with his gun because he's on duty. While sitting inside of Olive Garden, the staff member allegedly asked him to leave, telling the officer they do not allow guns inside the restaurant. There you go, Crooks.
I can,
Olive Garden, Kansas City, there's a target for you.
It has gotten so crazy that now when you hear these stories, I find myself laughing more than crying because it's just so absurd that somebody would ask a uniformed police officer to leave his gun in the car so that he can come have some of your noodles. I mean,
that would be like asking the fireman, you can come by and eat here, just don't bring your fire truck over here with us at all.
Yeah, we don't appreciate those fire hoses in our parking lot.
Yeah,
you need to park that across the street.
Room and, in fact, that actually did happen. I saw that it was a video that was put out. I don't know where it was at, but the fireman had gone to a grocery store.
Yes, to get groceries.
To get groceries, had their big fire truck out there.
Right.
Of course, they keep it with them. They went in to get groceries, and I'll just be blunt, he was some kind of redneck. That didn't have any brains because you could tell.
Well, he was a jerk. I saw the video.
He was a jerk. Yeah, he was a jerk. And he was absolutely just berating them for wasting taxpayer money driving that big truck down there for them to get groceries. Yeah. I got to hand it to the firemen. They handled that with very professional.
Yes,
sir.
File a complaint.
File a complaint. You have that right. I mean, they didn't get belligerent back to him, and I really had to hand it to him for being professional about it. But you could just tell one of them's faces like, you got to be kidding me.
Yeah, I mean,
and this guy wouldn't back off.
No,
and finally, the guy videoing it, the jerk said, "You're videoing, that's good." He says, "Yeah, I video it to show what kind of a jerk you are."
Yeah,
and it caught the guy off guard. He said, "Well, what do you mean?" He said, "I'm just videoing it to show you're the one that's a jerk in this deal."
Yeah, well, I mean, for example, professional firefighters typically work either 24-hour shifts or 48-hour shifts. I mean, they report to work with their pillow. I mean, because they're going to sleep in the firehouse. Mm-hmm. And so, guess what? Firefighters, like police officers, are human beings, and we require nourishment and food, and we drink water too. Mm-hmm. And so, to think that this guy feels that it's stumping the taxpayer because they have to go get groceries. Well, obviously they take the fire truck to go out when they do go out for lunch or when they do go to the store, because if your house catches on fire, Mr. Jerk, they're going to respond. They're going to drop their groceries, leave their food if they're in a restaurant, and I've seen it. The police and fire, paramedics as well. If EMS or emergency responders are eating a meal, I can't tell you how many meals I've had to get up and leave and take a call. I just got my hamburger. Guess what? You got to go. It's an emergency. So naturally they take their equipment with them because they need to respond from wherever they are, to either a medical call or a fire or something like that. Just, that's the kind of thing nowadays that just, I guess so many people have bought into this narrative, this very liberal narrative about, any government employees, but especially police and fire, EMS, emergency responders, to such a degree that we're all suspect and we're all on the picking money out of the dole, and we're wasting taxpayers' money. And
that's a long way from 9/11, isn't it?
Oh my!
I look at that. I go back when 9/11 hit. Yeah. Without spending a lot of time on it, I know where I was out on a job and I got the phone call and said, "Did you hear what just happened?" I said, "Well, no, I'm not anywhere near it." And they told me what happened, and I watched this nation the next few days. A nation that literally turned to the most patriotic and God-fearing nation I have probably seen in my lifetime.
Yeah.
I'm 61 years old.
Right.
And from 9/11 till now, it's not only a 180, it's a 180 plus a few more out there. And
he elected Barack Obama.
Well, that's the other thing of that. I'm taking $20 bets with people that she will be the nominee and be the president, and they look at me like, "You got to be kidding me." I says, "No, because never underrate the stupidity of the American voter."
Well,
and I don't mean that to be insulted on everyone in America, but you do have to sit and wonder.
They reelected him. I mean,
yeah, they reelected him,
and
we're looking at it, and we could get in a long drawn out deal about the campaigns going on. I'm interested in the debate tonight because I think, if you don't mind me just jumping on political right quick, I think the reason Joe Biden's not jumping in yet, he wants to see what happens after this first debate. If Hillary holds her own, okay, then see if Joe jumps in, he's not going to pull from Bernie. He's going to pull from Hillary. And the Democrat Party basically is a little bit afraid of Bernie. Bernie is really, honestly, he's telling exactly what the base ideology is of the Democrat Party. Yeah. That's not what they really want the American people to know.
And Bernie Sanders is a public debater. Now he's a liberal socialist, but at least, you know what? I can sit down and have a burger with a guy like Bernie Sanders because he's honest. Hey, I am a liberal. I am a progressive. I am a socialist. Somebody that's honest about who they are. I can have a cup of coffee with that guy because you're not doing this shady thing like, oh, I'm semi-conservative or I'm moderate or I'm in the middle, and then behind the scenes you're far more progressive than Barack Obama ever was. I saw an old tattered up bumper sticker when I was out on a walk this weekend, and it said, "When Clinton lied, no one died." That was a response back to, the George Bush days. Bush lied, people died. That old bumper sticker that's almost 20 years old on that old pickup. Now you could just clean it up a little bit, but you'd have to reword it. When Clinton lied, people did die. It's called Benghazi.
Yeah.
And so, I just don't, I think that now you may see in that debate, you may see Bernie Sanders eat her lunch.
He may do that. That's what it's going to be depending on what's that. But it gets back to, you look at with policemen and firemen, and I've never seen such a vitriol going back against them here in the last 2 years especially.
Yeah.
And I was thinking that the other day, I said, my gosh, if we come so far from 9/11, from the way we were when that happened.
You remember 9/12, 2001 on 62 here? You couldn't pass 3 cars that there wasn't an American flag either displayed on a sticker or hanging out the window or on the bumper.
Yeah.
And it was the most patriotic time I had ever seen in my lifetime. And, I'm only 48, but it was the most, and people were going to houses of worship to pray.
To get around courthouses.
Oh, yeah.
You didn't see the ACLU or Americans for Separation Church and State. They kept their mouth shut on that.
Yeah. And blacks
when are they
and
going to learn
whites
about
and yellows
separation of church and state?
What's this?
When are they going to learn about separation of church and state?
I don't think they ever will. It's been explained to them. I've even sat down. Well, I wouldn't say sat down, but I've with a liberal said, "Look, here's what it says, and this is what it. This is what the founding fathers, the original intent." And it's like we don't care.
The founding fathers, those hateful slave owners.
Yeah, well.
You're a hate monger.
Those hateful slave owners didn't want slavery, and they put in there all men were created equal. They
that's
knew
the facts.
And they did that in to try to say, look, America, you're going to have to change it because you're going to have to get it to where all men are, or you're never going to get there.
But the kids of today are being taught that the founding fathers were a bunch of racist, white, European, colonialist, haters, and now even to express a dissenting opinion about anything is to hate the other person.
I know. Really interesting. The other day, I buy and sell a lot of stuff, and I found a history book, American history book, written by a professor from Columbia University, and it was copyrighted in 1921.
Wow.
Absolutely fascinating. Not a revisionist history. He really gets, I went and looked at the Civil War and Reconstruction. He actually gets it right.
From Columbia.
I was really shocked. But
you wouldn't see that today.
No, but it was fascinating to sit there, and it was fascinating because he got into the depth of what the Civil War cost, not just in manpower, but also what it cost in the economy. One of the reasons why the South has took so long to build back was, of course, the Civil War basically bankrupted every state.
Sure.
But he got into the depth of what caused all that when you got into the KKK with the Jim Crow, and where this all got really started on that. And I was really surprised. I thought, boy, they don't put that in the history books.
And it wasn't uniquely around slavery alone.
No. He did say, it was, slavery was an issue there.
It was part of the pie.
We got into where there was a lot, we got into tariff money, and we could get into a whole long deal on that for a long time. But again, it gets back to it. I'm not sure where this coming up where the cop don't come in here because you got a gun. Most businesses love it if a cop comes in.
Oh my gosh! Back in the day, restaurants would give officers discounts to eat there because they wanted the police officers there. You know, I'm from Lafayette, Louisiana, and I worked there for 4 years, and especially on night shift, managers would come out, of their restaurant, Waffle House and things like that, and would say, please, come have breakfast here, on us, waffle, anytime you're hungry, come on by, we'll feed you, because, of course, there was a double-sided coin. They wanted that marked unit out there and that uniformed police officer in there, and usually, there were never any problems at 2 in the morning in those restaurants because the police were eating in there. And they didn't ask us to leave our guns in the car either.
We need to take a quick break. Be right back. Stick around. 7:48. Continue our discussion with Tommy Johnson and Sam Seamans talking about separation of church and state. Even Wikipedia, the liberal Wikipedia, quote, separation of church and state, end of quote, is a phrase used by Thomas Jefferson and others expressing an understanding of the intent and function of the Establishment Clause and the Free Exercise Clause of the First Amendment. Now get a load of this. This is what they say. Jefferson's metaphor of a wall of separation has been cited repeatedly by the U.S. Supreme Court in Reynolds versus United States, 1879. The court wrote that Jefferson's comments, quotes, may be accepted almost as an authoritative declaration of the scope and effect of the First Amendment, end of quote. Yeah. It's not law.
No, it's a phrase.
It's a phrase. It's a metaphorical phrase.
And the content of which Jefferson presented it, the church, it was a Danbury Baptist church, I believe.
Yeah.
They were afraid that the government was going to impose restrictions on that church. And that's what Jefferson was saying. No, the government is not allowed to do that under the First Amendment because there is a wall of separation that keeps the government out of your business. That's what Jefferson meant. Now you have, like I mentioned, the ACLU, Americans for Separation of Church and State. They have totally turned that around. It's like, no, religion or an influence cannot be into the government. And if you go back and look at the original intent, David Barton, some people know who he is. He's a fabulous historian. He's written several books. One of them is Original Intent, and it's a fascinating book. It's the Courts, the Constitution, and I feel there's a subtitle to it. But it's called Original Intent. I've read it like 4 times. He gets into it, goes back to the historical aspects of that. And what Jefferson was saying, and of course all of them, is that you have to have a certain amount of moral aptitude within laws. And where's that moral aptitude going to come from? It has to go back to the Judeo-Christian principles which it's found on. Now they're teaching young people they were agnostics, or some of them were even atheists and whatever.
Right.
Fine, okay, some of them are atheists, some are agnostics. They still went in there as a body and knew that if you did not have a nation set up with a base moral foundation, and you could, then it's not. So where are you going to put that foundation on? They put it on the Judeo-Christian principles.
Exactly. So, Tommy, I want to ask you, and Sam, of course, Sam's also pastor at the St. Thomas Anglican Church. We are flabbergasted at murder. But yet, the document that says, thou shalt not kill, we call the Ten Commandments, has been removed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like just recently in Oklahoma.
In the dark of night.
At dark of night. Yeah, they had to do it in the dark of night.
But now, if you want to put up a statue of the devil, of Baphomet,
in Detroit,
Lucifer, then you feel free. But
But think about it. If we were just simply to obey, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not commit adultery, thou shalt not bear false witness, blah blah blah, all this, we'd keep the judges and lawyers wouldn't have anything to do.
Yeah.
The whole basis of our laws have been on. If you go to Washington, there's another book and a video from Newt Gingrich. And he shows and if you go to Washington, I would love to go to Washington, D.C., the Supreme Court and also in the inner walls of the Capitol are just literally lined with those references to biblical characters.
I've been there.
Right.
I've been to D.C. 3
times.
Then
you know what I'm talking about.
And the word God is everywhere. Every monument, we hold these truths to be self-evident, and that, and that, our rights come from God. Mm-hmm. It's all over. I mean, they still have a whole lot of work to do if they're going to get all the references to God off of the monuments that were put there, some of them over 100 years ago.
And even some of the documents refer to as from our Creator, therefore recognizing creation in our documents.
Yeah. What's happened with our Constitution is the same thing that people do sometimes with the Bible. You hear people sometimes misquote it, because it's convenient for them. Like, for example, money's the root of all evil. We've heard people say that. Well, no, that's not what it says. The love of money. That one word makes a whole lot of difference. There's a real and good moral application for using money and tender. It's the love of that can ruin you. And so they read phrases into the Constitution like separation of church and state. And
liberal, secular progressives will change the round, and because the end justifies the means, and you'll see it. I see it, you see it.
Oh yeah,
and you can bring out and says, no, you're incorrect here, and here's the reason why. And then they immediately will they'll do one of two things. They'll either change the subject or the issue, or you will be vilified or.
Well, that's their major tactic, vilifying you. You're a hater. If you disagree with anybody, you hate them.
Right. And I just smile when it happens because then I know I've won the argument.
Yeah, if that's all you got.
If that's the best you can come back with, and that just means
get personal. Yeah. I mean, and I think you can actually love a person and be kind to them and absolutely disagree with what they're saying. I mean, isn't that how you see in our country the current debate around same-sex marriage and gay rights and whatnot? That if you say, wait a minute, I don't think. And in my belief system, and what my Bible tells me, I don't think that two people of the same sex engaging in sexual activity is God's design for us. And I don't think that that's a healthy thing to do. And I think it's wrong, and I think it's sinful. That is not saying I hate you, but they've been quite successful, that particular lobby in this country, at getting people to roll over and feel like they're a hater or a bigot when they're really not. They're just disagreeing.
Have you noticed with the push for the gay rights movement that there's not been any talk about the AIDS epidemic that we had in the 80s? It's not gone away. We've shoved it under the rug. So what's going to happen within the next 20, 25 years, and then we still have Obamacare looming out there? Yeah. I think you're going to have a very expensive epidemic on your hand.
Yeah. Well,
and it won't be pretty when it hits.
No.
And and part of that came from the conservative side because a lot of people were ignorant in how it was transmitted, and that there are heterosexual people with it, obviously. But back to the central point, just because you take a contrary view or opinion of someone or something does not make you a hater or an ill wisher. It just means that you just disagree with someone, and that's the most disturbing trend I've seen. It's like the brown shirts in the 1930s. They would go to a political rally, and when somebody with a contrary view would want to speak, they'd shout them down. And that's what they're doing now, shouting people down.
And it only happens if you allow them to do that.
Yeah.
But you got to be more professional and more calm about it. That's all I can tell you.
Yeah.
Good luck.
That pretty well wraps it up. Thanks to Sam Seamans coming in here and Tommy Johnson. That wraps it up. We'll be back tomorrow. Have a great day, everybody.